as I was hitting nature today, trying to figure out what on earth I was meditating on. And I got down here to this lovely park close to where our yoga center is, very close. And I took a little side trail that I hadn't taken yet down to where you can get close to the bank and where these big, beautiful bluffs are. And it finally hit me, and I got my feet on the ground there near the water. And this is a subject that I have thought about and meditated on and spoken of before, but certainly not as directly as I'm meditating on it right now and on this channel out loud. As I said, I was at the bank of the river, and it finally hit me what I wanted to say. And it is about the bank itself. What is the bank? In real life, so to speak, what is the bank? In real life, bank is where I was just standing. Images I shared. Where the river meets the land, water meets the land. This could be the ocean. In this case, a really, really good analogy. The picture metaphor is the river itself as it flows through the middle and the bank on either side. And this is how the earth itself is it not? We have nations and continents and civilizations on different banks of the oceans and the bodies of water. We are going into a deep subject today, and we don't know how deep we're going to go. But I want to try to scratch the surface a little bit and try to give you a metaphysical, spiritual perspective of where I'm coming from. And this is a very heavy subject, and there's so much going on in the world right now, and there's so many arguments to take and debates to have. This is why I'm trying to come at it from this angle, because what can be added to the white noise right now of the mad world, and what I could best offer is that perspective. So we must think pure, shamanic, metaphoric. Life is a movie matrix symbology here. The bank is the place where the water meets the land. And this is the word that is used to represent in our modern world the money system that we are under. Being very careful with my words. And I'm going to try to be brief. There is so much about this subject, and I'm trying to get to the deep heart, the spiritual heart of it, without, one, getting in trouble, two, saying key words that YouTube doesn't like, still remain holistic as possible. I spent a lot of time in nature, and anyone who does will know and agree with me that whenever we go down to the bank of the river, particularly at the springtime of year, this is where we see the snake. The snake, the serpent, is always at the bank. Obviously, we know that we see snakes everywhere all the time. We know this. But by God, if it's not just off the charts, during the high spring months of the year when the snakes are out and roaming, they are sitting at the bank. They are on the land near the water. They are betwixt the two. They are living out their so-called amphibious, reptilious nature right there on the bank of the river. The serpent can be found at the bank. Everybody, you have heard different people at different times from different places use such terminology as follow the money. We know this term. I don't have to get into that subject. I want to point out proof in the natural world as it is thusly written and spoken and told of in so many countless scriptures, myths, legends, tales, stories. The serpent's representation with evil and darkness is nothing new. And we know what a mysterious creature actual snakes are in the actual natural world. For one thing, we know they don't have any legs or feet. They have to slither along on their bellies, which is one hell of an existence, if you ask me. And in some other way, it gives them cunning. In some way, it gives them cunning that we don't have, perhaps, in the ways that they do. And a certain kind of speed, an ability to hide, an ability to wrap around your ankles. Insert your analogies here, please. Insert your list of characteristics that we think of when we think of snakes. Go ahead. And when we wander the beautiful places on earth where the water meets the land, particularly during the times of year when the weather is warming up, we find the serpents every single time. Every single time. I have had way too many close encounters, more than I want. And every time I do, they are far more pissed off that I'm in their midst that I am, that they're in mine. They're scared of us. They don't want anything to do with us. The real snakes don't. We must understand the character. We talk about the physical characteristics of an animal. We could, the same thing applies to the zodiac, if you will. It's like the goat, and I'll use that as an example. Being a triple Capricorn here, the goat is the animal that represents that. And we think of characteristics of the goat. Now, we're not talking about deliberately climbing cliffs the way that a goat would, because if a person tried to do that, they would die. It's the spiritual, metaphysical, symbolic characteristics we personify in our being. And it is just true. There's a view up there. There's a view. And the view that the goat has, having climbed the crazy cliff, is symbolically represented in the potential spiritual view, metaphysical view, however you want to plug that in. The point is, the serpent is always at the bank. The serpent is at the bank. We know what serpents represent mythologically, spiritually, even biblically. Straight up, biblically. The serpent is at the bank. What's happening there? What's going on here? What kind of crazy matrix game are we living in? What is this money system? Why does it slip through our fingers? Well, money is referred to as many things, but when we look at we look at some of those words, we see some of the clues. Money is known as liquid assets, right? It's known as currency. It's known as these things that are water and not land. I'm standing on the land right now. The only way I can survive as an animal as God made me, with lungs, a mammal. Which is to say that the laws that I live by, the laws that my being lives by, as do all humans and land-crawling animals. Therefore, our laws that govern our civilization should also bear in those natural laws. Except our money system is the serpent system, which is more amphibious because it comes out of the water. Literally. That's why it's called currency. And money, because money is the moon, and the moon is the magnetic force which governs the tides. And the water of our being, our emotions. Come on, y'all. It all fits. If you know what's up, and you study the holy science, the subjects, beyond the church and beyond the school. You got to go beyond the church and beyond the school. But that's another subject. The subject of today is a serpent at the bank. And what is that in the world? What is a serpent in the world, metaphorically, and what is a bank in the world, metaphorically? Think about that. We all know the famous verse of Christ turning over the tables in the temple. Because the money merchants, that's two water words right there. Money and merchant. Merchant, as in merchandise. Merchant is the same, myrrh is the same word we use for mermaid. It's water. Money, merchants in the temple, and Christ turn over their tables. Metaphorically representing, for us, you do not turn God's kingdom into a place ruled by money, where money, by nature of the way the structure is set up, that the love of money and money itself becomes everyone's God and not God the Creator himself. This is a very broad way of interpreting that verse. And it is the money merchants. And they are serpents. They are serpents, everyone. They are serpents. The money merchants are serpents. And Christ knew that. Of course, Christ knew that. Yeshua Christ, the Essene, did not have to go back there and face them. He did because he knew where the belly of the beast was. At the bank. At the bank, y'all. The snake is at the bank. I don't have to tell you anymore. The tide is lifting. Pluto is touching back on the edges of Capricorn in retrograde and stationing one more time at the United States natal point of its birth in our country. I don't have to tell you. The tide is turning. And this is about the truth coming out. All I am here to do is help you at this point fill in the blanks of what it means about the spiritual war we are in ways that maybe other people haven't explained to you. From a more holistic yogic perspective and from my own personality. And that's all I can offer. But either way, what I'm saying is the truth. And you see it in the real world, the natural world. God's matrix and the devil's matrix stacked on top of one another. The serpent is at the bank of the river. And in our world, the serpent is at the bank. Go to the bank, find a serpent. Now, in the natural world, we don't have to kill them. They're scared of us, we let them run away. But what they represent spiritually, metaphorically, metaphysically, in the real world, we might have to deal with it differently. Because these serpents may not run away. They may not just slither away. Because in some ways, this serpent is wrapped around our ankles so tight because of the bank. The hearts of all of y'all, I'm feeling so heavy right now because of what we're facing through, what we're going through, and what we're possibly facing. The more we can understand the depth and why, we can banter back and forth all we want about the who and the what and the where and the politics of it and even the numbers of it. Go ahead. Go ahead. The serpent is sitting at the bank and you will find it. You will always find it slithering in, sliming its way in, wrapping itself around something else's ankles and making its way into the land like that, borrowing someone else's feet. Think about that for a second, borrowing someone else's feet. If a snake all of a sudden were saying, I'm gonna be a person, I'm gonna be like them. It had to grow feet, can't grow feet. It's gonna have to slither up on top of someone else's and let them do the walking for them. Yes. My God, finally, it is growing more obvious to a critical mass. After years and years of many of us losing sleep over such subjects, of this deep spiritual war that we are in and what it looks like in the world and how to deal with it directly. We don't have to just roll over. If we know, we understand, and we seek the Holy Spirit, God reveals the truth to us. And he shows it to us in the natural world. And he reveals those parallels to us out in the material world, the money world, the serpent's world. I, for one, do not want to stay living in a serpent system. And I myself do not want to pass to the next generations of my family and my community a serpent system either. I don't think any of you do either. And I would say that deep in the hearts of humanity, there would be about 98.5% of all of us that would agree on that we do not want to live in a serpent system. And there would be about a 1.5 of us that think we should. And if we look at the bank of the river with our eyes open for the serpent, we will discover the truth of that and be able to fight properly the spiritual war we are in. And it is a war for our lives. It is a war for humanity. It's not just a war for some political party or even the winning of some particular war. It's way bigger than that. In the meantime, while you're outside, look out for snakes.